Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. The steel ring space station glimmered in the void, a cold metal fortress against the cosmic dark. Sergeant Ethan Carver strode into the main corridor, military boots clanging on the steel floor, each step a challenge to the alien strangeness around him. Piercing gazes from Galactic Alliance delegates swept over him, tall beings with shimmering silver skin and eyes like black voids. Ethan, a human mercenary, didn't belong here. His worn gray-silver uniform clashed with their ornate robes. His mission, protect Chieftain Kaelith, leader of the Voryn, during a historic peace summit. "Don't stare, Carver," Captain Ramirez whispered, matching his pace. "Voryn see it as an insult." Ethan nodded, eyes dropping to the floor, but his combat instincts remained taut as a wire. "Why'd you pull me from leave, boss?" Ramirez frowned. "3 guards down. Food poisoning. You're the only one trained for interstellar counterinfiltration." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Poisoning? On a station this advanced?" A bad feeling stirred, but before he could press, the procession halted. Kaelith appeared. Her movements flowed like water, her galactic silk gown shimmering, silver skin patterns shifting with each step. Deep, fathomless eyes scanned the hall, pausing briefly on Ethan. His heart skipped. She was power incarnate, yet her slender shoulders held a strange fragility. Ambassador Helen Carter bowed. "We're honored to negotiate here, Chieftain." Kaelith's voice, soft as a breeze, replied, but Ethan caught her hands clenching, a sign of strain. He melted into the shadows, eyes fixed on the hall. Protocol was clear: stay invisible, vigilant, and avoid interacting with Kaelith unless necessary. But the air was too still, like the calm before a storm. Ethan scanned the crowd. A Voryn near the crystal wall tapped a wrist device repeatedly, not checking time. In the far corner, a station worker in gray moved slowly, but wore spiked boots, not standard issue. "Boss, northeast corner, station worker. Something's off," he whispered into his comm. Ramirez glanced over. "Probably a tech." "Don't panic." "Not a tech," Ethan said, voice firm. He leaned, observing closer. The worker now stood by a pillar, hand in pocket, eyes locked on Kaelith. The Voryn security team, led by Commander Zorath, stood scattered, leaving the hall's west side exposed, a fatal gap. Ethan's fist tightened, forcing calm. "Boss, Voryn team's out of formation." "Attack risk?" Ramirez turned, eyes sharp. "You're overstepping, Carver." "I'll handle it." But Ethan didn't stand still. Danger crackled down his spine. The vast hall, with crystal walls reflecting light, was a maze of threats to Ethan. Another Voryn delegate, in black robes, whispered to a colleague, pointing at Kaelith. Ethan shifted, changing his angle. A shadow flickered on the hall's second tier, not in uniform, moving fast behind a wall. "Boss, upper level, west corner," he whispered urgently, hand brushing the plasma pistol under his jacket. Ramirez opened his mouth to object, but Ethan was already moving, weaving through guards, eyes fixed on the shadow. His heart pounded, but his mind was ice. Kaelith tilted her head, sensing him. Their eyes met, brief, but a silent warning. He stopped a few meters from Kaelith, blending into the formation. Zorath, towering with silver skin, shot him a hostile glare. Ethan kept his face blank, but noted it. The Voryn team shifted, covering the gap, but too late. The station worker now stood near the east exit, hands still in pocket. Ethan whispered, "Boss, east exit. He's armed." Ramirez sighed. "You sure? Don't cause a scene." "Sure," Ethan replied, voice low. He scanned the hall, counting 47 delegates, 12 Voryn guards, 8 humans, 6 station workers. Too many variables. Kaelith spoke to Carter, her voice melodic, but her hands trembled slightly. Ethan wanted to step closer, but protocol held him back. The shadow on the upper tier reappeared, now near the railing. Ethan strained, spotting a metallic glint. A gun barrel? He gripped his pistol, ready. "Boss, weapon on tier 2. he reported, voice urgent. Ramirez turned. Stand down, Carver! I'll check. But Ethan didn't wait. He advanced, breaching the no-contact zone, 3 meters from Kaelith. Zorth growled in Voryn, but Ethan ignored him. Kaelith turned, her eyes locking onto his. A faint whine sounded from above. Ethan lunged, tackling Kaelith to the floor, shielding her. An explosion shook the hall, crystal shards flying. Stay down! He shouted, using his body to block debris. Kaelith struggled. How dare you! A second blast cut her off. Ethan rolled her behind a pillar, pistol drawn. 3 attackers, he reported via comm. Upper tier east exit. Zorth bellowed orders, but his team was in disarray. Ethan scanned the hall. A gunman above aimed down. He fired 3 precise shots, dropping him. Move! He ordered, grabbing Kaelith's hand, pulling her through the shard-strewn chaos. She nodded, eyes wide with shock. An energy bolt grazed past, scorching a pillar. Ethan returned fire, downing the second gunman. Safe room, now! He said, voice hard. Kaelith followed, her cold hand in his. The hall erupted in screams. Ethan spotted Zora standing still, eyes fixed on them. The bad feeling surged. He shoved Kaelith through the safe room door, locking it. You okay? He asked, breathing heavily. She nodded, eyes on his arm, blood seeping from a shard cut. You bleed for me, she said, voice trembling. Just a scratch, Ethan replied, but her deep gaze stopped him. In Voryn culture, blood is an oath, she whispered. Ethan looked away, keeping distance. I'm doing my job. But his heart knew, an oath was forged beneath the stars. The battle at Orion 7 erupted like a cosmic nightmare, plasma flashes and explosions blending into a deadly symphony. Clythar warships breached the defenses, spilling troops into the station's metal corridors, their gleaming armored forms gliding like specters, plasma weapons tearing through steel and flesh. Colonel Voss led the counterattack, moving swiftly through smoke-filled halls, his energy rifle spitting white bolts, each shot a cold calculation from a seasoned veteran. But he quickly realized the enemy's true target, the medical bay, where they believed the Clythar assassin was held. They want her dead, Lieutenant Parker shouted over comms, voice breaking amid the station's shaking blasts. She knows something, Colonel! Voss gritted his teeth, gunning down a Clythar warrior charging him, its body collapsing, silver blood pooling on the floor. In the chaos, he lost track of the assassin. She'd left the med bay, vanishing into Orion 7's shadows, moving like an invisible blade. Yet he felt her presence, a specter gliding through the battlefield, leaving scattered Clythar corpses, each death the result of a perfect stab or shot, chillingly precise. He sprinted through a narrow corridor, his team behind him, when a Clythar assassin squad ambushed the command room. A plasma blade blazed toward Voss's chest, its green glow inches from his heart. He raised his rifle, knowing he was too late. Then, like lightning, a figure burst from the dark, felling the attacker in a blur of motion. The Clythar assassin stood before him, armor torn, silver blood staining her body, dripping to the floor, but her crescent eyes burned like unquenchable fire. You shouldn't be here, Voss growled, firing at another enemy, his bolt shredding its armor. She tilted her head, eyes glinting, as if smiling through her cracked mask. Always here, she rasped, voice distorted by her translator. She pulled him from the command room, guiding him through smoke and debris, moving with the ease of one who knew every dark corner of the battlefield. You need to know, she said, voice urgent, each word forced from a wounded chest. I carry data, maps of Clythar secret bases, their war plans. Enough to force peace talks. Voss froze, his steps faltering for a second, eyes locked on her. Where's the data? She touched her chest, a small scar hidden under torn armor, above her heart. In me. Implanted chip. That's why they hunt me. He wanted to ask more, to understand how a girl from Tarsis carried a war-changing secret, but a nearby explosion cut him off, the floor quaking, metal shards flying. The Clythar had breached the final defenses, advancing on the station's power core, Orion 7's heart, where a blast could erase everything. "Hold them!" Voss shouted over comms, ordering his team to stand firm, but his eyes stayed on her. She stood tall, clutching the dagger he'd given her, silver blood oozing from fresh wounds, yet her crescent eyes never wavered. "I'll lead," she said, voice low, like an oath. "Power core. They can't reach it." Voss nodded, heart heavy. He knew she wasn't healed, that each step defied death, but her eyes, the eyes of the Tarsis girl, the specter who'd saved him a decade ago, left him no choice. They charged through corridors, her moving ahead, swift as a shadow, cutting down a Clythar warrior with a dagger to the throat before it could raise its weapon. Voss fired support, each shot a light piercing the dark, but he couldn't help but marvel at her, a war machine, yet a being carrying hope for peace. A Clythar squad blocked their path, plasma weapons blazing, but she dove in, her dagger flashing, felling two before they could react. Silver blood sprayed, soaking her armor, but she didn't stop. "This way!" she shouted, pointing to a side corridor leading to the power core. But as they neared, a larger figure emerged, a high-ranking Clythar warrior, armor etched with command sigils, wielding a long plasma sword. "You betray us, Lyrian!" it roared, voice warped by its translator, crescent eyes locked on her. Voss raised his rifle, but she stopped him, her gaze sharp as a blade. "He's mine!" she said, voice icy, and for the first time, Voss heard her name, Lyrian. The station trembled, explosions nearing, but Voss knew this fight wasn't just about the power core. It was about Lyrian, the data within her, and the fragile thread between species, hanging on the edge of life and death. The safe room was sealed, alarms echoing faintly through thick steel. Emergency red lights flickered, casting a pale glow on Kaelith's ashen face. Ethan Carver knelt, checking her, voice low. "Are you hurt, Chieftain?" She shook her head, eyes fixed on his arm, where blood seeped from a deep shard cut. Crimson, staining his gray-silver uniform. "You bleed for me," she said, voice trembling, as if it held meaning beyond the moment. "Just a scratch," Ethan replied, though the sharp pain said otherwise. Kaelith stepped closer, cool fingers brushing the wound, making him pause. A jolt ran through him, not from pain. "In Voryn culture, blood is an oath," she whispered, eyes fathomless. "You've sworn by blood for me." Ethan looked away, trying to keep professional distance. "I'm just doing my job." But her gaze, raw and fierce, shook his boundaries. The steel door hissed open, metal scraping. Commander Zora stormed in, silver skin glinting under the lights, face dark. "Chieftain, the human security team failed miserably," he growled, glaring at Ethan. "You must be protected by Voryn." Kaelith stood tall, regal, voice icy. "This man just saved my life while your team stood watching." Zorath faltered, but his eyes flashed hostility, a danger Ethan didn't miss. "We stay here until it's secure," Ethan said, calm but firm. He positioned himself before Kaelith, pistol holstered but hand ready. Zorath clenched his fists, then turned, spitting a Voryn phrase, voice dripping contempt. Kaelith whispered, "He called you a disgrace to the station." Ethan shrugged. "I'm used to it." The safe room was cramped, smelling of metal and ozone. Ethan checked the door, ensuring the lock held. Kaelith sat on a steel chair, her torn silk gown revealing scratches on her legs. She didn't complain, but Ethan saw her slight tremble. "You need bandaging," he said, rummaging through a wall-mounted medkit. She shook her head. "You do." He paused, glancing at his cut. The bleeding had stopped, but it stung. "I'm fine," he said, but she stood, taking the gauze from him. "Sit," she ordered, tone brooking no argument. Ethan hesitated, then sat, letting her bandage him. Her fingers were gentle, but each touch sent a wave through him. "Voryn, don't do this," he said, voice low. "Care for others." She smiled faintly. "I'm not a typical Voryn." Ethan's calm crackled. "Carver, report." Ramirez's voice tense. "What's it like out there, boss?" Ethan asked, eyes on Kaelith. Chaos. 2 gunmen dead, 1 escaped. Zorth is blaming us. Ethan frowned. Does he know where the escapee went? Silence. Then Ramirez. No. But something's wrong. Security systems were tampered with. Ethan's grip tightened. Stay in touch, boss. He turned to Kaelith. They lost the 3rd. We're not safe. She nodded, eyes glinting with worry. You think it's a plot? Ethan nodded. Too precise for chance. The door vibrated, as if tested. Ethan raised his pistol, signaling Kaelith to step back. She complied, clutching the gauze like a weapon. Knocks sounded, then Lyra's voice, Kaelith's aide. Chieftain! It's me! Open! Ethan glanced at Kaelith. You trust her? Kaelith hesitated, then nodded. Lyra's loyal. Ethan opened the door, pistol steady. Lyra rushed in, robes disheveled, eyes frantic. Chieftain, Zorth wants to take you. He says humans can't be trusted. Kaelith frowned. He has no authority. Lyra glanced at Ethan. He says this one broke protocol, touched you. Ethan stood taller. I saved her. Where were you, Lyra? Lyra stiffened, silent. Ethan scanned her. No weapons, but her robe pocket bulged, something inside. What's that? He asked, voice cold. Lyra looked away. Just a communicator. Ethan stepped closer, hand out. Hand it over. Lyra hesitated, then gave him a small device. Ethan checked. It wasn't a communicator, but a signal scanner. You're tracking us? He growled. Kaelith stepped forward, eyes sharp. Lyra, explain. Lyra's lips tightened. Zorth ordered it. He said it's to protect you. Ethan gripped the device, eyes locked on Lyra. Or to find an opening. Kaelith touched his arm, voice low. Enough. Lyra, leave. Stay with the Voryn team. Lyra glared at Ethan, then left, the door slamming. The room fell silent, but tension lingered. Ethan checked Lyra's device, finding a signal sent 10 minutes ago, to an unknown channel. Someone knows we're here, he said, voice grim. Kaelith sat, eyes fixed on him. You don't trust anyone, do you? He shrugged. I trust what I see. And I see you need to stay alive. She smiled weakly. You're not a typical guard. Ethan turned away, dodging her gaze. I'm not a guard. I'm a soldier. The calm crackled again. Carver, Zorth demands to see the chieftain. He's brought the council, Ramirez said. Ethan frowned. The council? Here? Kaelith stood, voice firm. They shouldn't be here. This is a summit, not a trial. Ethan gripped his pistol. What do they want? Ramirez sighed. To separate her from you. They say you broke protocol, endangered peace. Ethan looked at Kaelith. You want to meet them? She shook her head. No. But I must. Or they'll force me off the station. Ethan nodded. I'm with you. She touched his arm, lightly. Thank you. They prepared to leave, but a small explosion echoed from the corridor. Ethan shoved Kaelith back, pistol raised. Smoke seeped through the door's seams. Trap, he whispered. The comm buzzed one last time, Ramirez's voice urgent. Carver, fall back. Systems hacked. Heavy footsteps approached, not guards. Ethan locked eyes with Kaelith. Trust me? She nodded, gripping his hand. Completely. He pried open the vent grate behind the room. Climb. She scrambled in, agile despite her gown. Ethan followed, pistol ready. The steel door burst open, a black-clad figure stepping in, eyes glinting. Not Zorth. Not Lyra. A stranger Voryn, energy rifle raised. Ethan fired once, hitting its shoulder, then sealed the grate. Run! He shouted. Kaelith surged forward, breathing hard. Ethan knew, their blood oath was now the only thread between them and death. The summit resumed the next day, but the air in the steel ring's main hall hung heavy, like a storm about to break. Light from floating crystal orbs dimmed in the lingering dust of yesterday's attack. Ethan Carver stood 3 steps behind Chieftain Kaelith, per protocol, his eyes scanning the delegates. Every face was a question, every gesture a suspicion. The Voryn security team, led by Commander Zoreth, stood rigid, their gazes sliding over Kaelith as if she were a target, not their charge. Ethan's fists clenched, his face blank, but his combat instincts were taut as a wire. A group of conservative Voryn, clad in black robes embroidered with ancient sigils, stepped forward, voices sharp. "This treaty betrays our legacy. Humanity doesn't deserve a seat at this table." Kaelith's reply was calm but cutting. "Our legacy is survival, not war. This treaty is our future." Ethan noticed one delegate slip back, hand brushing a comm device hidden in their sleeve. He leaned in, whispering to Kaelith. "Guy in the right corner, sending a signal. Something's wrong." She gave a slight nod, not turning, but her trust warmed his chest. The hall buzzed with delegates' whispers, but Ethan heard only his heartbeat. He scanned the crowd, 54 delegates, 10 Voryn guards, 6 humans, 4 station workers. One worker, near the west exit, moved slowly, eyes locked on Kaelith. Ethan murmured into his comm, "Captain, worker by the west door. Watch him." Ramirez, a few meters away, replied, "Got him. Could be a tech." "No," Ethan said, voice low. "He's like yesterday's gunman." Ramirez went silent, then nodded. Ethan glanced back, catching Zoreth whispering to a conservative Voryn, their eyes flicking to Kaelith. A bad feeling surged. He stepped closer to Kaelith, breaking protocol, but she didn't object. Her deep eyes met his briefly, a wordless thank you. The banquet ended, but tension lingered. Ethan escorted Kaelith to her quarters, their boots echoing in the cold steel corridor. Inside, she shed her ceremonial robe, revealing slender silver shoulders, skin patterns glimmering like stars. "You know more about our culture than I expected," she said, eyes sparkling with curiosity. Ethan gave a faint smile, keeping his distance per protocol. "I learned to protect, Chieftain." She stepped closer, breaching diplomatic boundaries. "Call me Kaelith. And tell me truly, why do you do this?" He hesitated, her gaze piercing him. "For peace," he said. "And for you." The distance between them dissolved, their breaths mingling, the air electric. A knock shattered the moment. Ramirez appeared, face grim. "Carver, trouble. Medical supplies are off. Signs of neurotoxin." Ethan and Kaelith exchanged a look, realizing the enemy wasn't just outside but within. Ethan locked the door. "What toxin?" he asked, voice steady. Ramirez showed a data pad. "Xyloth 7. Paralyzes Voryn nervous systems for seconds, enough for an assassination. Humans are immune." Kaelith frowned, gripping her chair. "Who has access to the medical bay?" Ramirez shrugged. "Too many. Station staff, medics, even some delegates." Ethan scanned the data, spotting a signature, Lyra, Kaelith's aide. He glanced at her. "Does Lyra have a reason to enter the bay?" Kaelith shook her head. "No. She only handles schedules." Ethan gripped the pad. "Where is she?" Ramirez checked. "With Zoreth, in the hall." Ethan and Kaelith shared a glance. "We need to check the bay," he said. The corridor to the medical bay was quiet, but Ethan sensed danger. He led, pistol ready, Kaelith behind him, her silk gown rustling. Ramirez brought up the rear, eyes scanning. The bay was sealed with biometric locks. Ethan hacked the panel, sparks flying. "Hurry," Ramirez whispered, hearing distant footsteps. The door opened. Inside, antiseptic stung the air. Ethan checked crates, finding vials of Xyloth 7, double the reported amount. "Someone's planning something big," he said, voice cold. Kaelith opened a crate, paling. "This isn't Xyloth 7. It's Xiron 9. Banned. Lethal to Voryn and humans." Ethan turned. "How's it here?" She shook her head. "Someone wants to sabotage the treaty." A noise echoed from the bay's corner. Ethan raised his pistol, pushing Kaelith behind him. Ramirez swept the shadows. Anyone there? No answer. Ethan advanced, spotting a figure retreating, a masked station worker. Freeze! He shouted, but the figure threw a Xiron 9 vial to the floor. Toxic gas hissed, its acrid smell burning Ethan's nose. He pulled Kaelith to run, Ramirez coughing. Masks! Ethan yelled, grabbing masks from a nearby crate, securing one on Kaelith. He tossed another to Ramirez, but the gas spread. His eyes stung, but he shoved them out the door. The attacker vanished through a side exit. Ethan sealed the door, gasping. He knew we were coming. Ramirez coughed, face flushed. Security systems hacked. Kaelith gripped Ethan's hand, eyes glinting with fear. Lyra knew we suspected. Ethan nodded. Or Zorith. He checked her mask. You okay? She nodded, hands trembling. You nearly died for me, again. He shrugged. Not dead yet. Ramirez stood, voice hoarse. We need to report. Not through main channels. There's a mole. Ethan looked at Kaelith. Who do you trust in the council? She shook her head. No one now. Ethan gripped his pistol. Then it's just us. They left the bay, the corridor now crawling with Voryn guards. Zorith waited, eyes blazing. Chieftain, why are you with this human? Kaelith stood tall. He keeps me alive. What about you? Zorith's lips tightened, turning to Ethan. You broke protocol. The council will deal with you. Ethan stepped forward, voice icy. Does the council know about the toxins in the bay? Zorith froze, then turned away. Ethan whispered to Kaelith. He's hiding something. She nodded, her hand brushing his arm, light but firm. I trust you, Ethan. His heart pounded. A seed of betrayal had been sown, but their oath grew stronger. In a dim corner of the steel ring, red emergency lights flickered, casting a pallor on Kaelith's face. Ethan and she hunched over a small screen, watching security footage Ramirez had covertly provided. A masked figure accessed the armory, moving stealthily, but as they turned, the light revealed their face, Zorith, the Voryn security commander, supposedly loyal. He betrays us, Kaelith whispered, voice raw with pain, as if her heart were torn. Her fathomless eyes glistened, but she clenched her fists. Ethan took her hand, voice steady. We'll stop him. But we act alone. She nodded, eyes locked on his, trusting completely. They planned Kaelith would publicly disavow Ethan, claiming she needed no human guards, to mislead Zorith. Meanwhile, Ethan would infiltrate the security corps, gathering evidence of the plot. But before parting, Kaelith pulled him close, her lips meeting his, fierce and desperate. Her breath burned, a flame in the dark. If we fail, she said, voice trembling, remember this moment. Ethan gripped her hand, feeling warmth through her silver skin. We won't fail, he replied, eyes fixed on hers. He left, carrying that fire, ready to face the shadows. The corridor to the security core was cold, machinery humming like the station's pulse. Ethan moved silently, gray-silver uniform blending into the dark. Plasma pistol in hand, he scanned every corner. Protocol barred him from here, but protocol didn't keep Kaelith alive. The core's door was biometric locked. Ethan hacked the panel, sparks flashing, fingers flying. The door hissed open. Inside, screens displayed security data, but no guards. Too quiet. He plugged in his device, downloading files. Encrypted data appeared, revealing horror, not just Zorith, but Ambassador Helen Carter, humanity's lead delegate, was involved. A document showed her approving Xiron 9 transfers, disguised as medical supplies. Her digital signature was unmistakable, unforgeable. Ethan stood frozen. The woman he'd trusted, humanity's face, was a traitor. His heart raced, but his hands moved, saving the data. An explosion shook the station, throwing Ethan to the floor. Alarms screamed, red lights flashing. Carver, get out! Ramirez's voice crackled through the calm, urgent. Zorith knows you're there. Ethan scrambled up, pistol raised, scanning the room. A side door burst open, 3 black-clad Voryn charging in, energy rifles blazing. Ethan dove behind a console, firing twice, dropping one. "Ramirez, where's she at?" he shouted into the calm. "Kaelith is safe, with me, but Zorth is coming." Ethan gritted his teeth, firing again, hitting another's shoulder. The third aimed, but Ethan rolled, kicking the console into him. The Voryn fell, rifle skidding. Ethan pounced, cuffing him with energy restraints. "Who's giving orders?" he growled. The Voryn's sneered voice cold. "You can't stop us." Heavy footsteps echoed outside. Ethan pocketed the device, sprinting for the side door. Smoke filled the air, acrid and burning. He slipped through a narrow corridor, dodging a Voryn patrol. The comm buzzed. "Carver, Zorth is blocking the main path. Find a side route." Ethan mentally mapped the station. Nearest exit, maintenance bay, lower level. He raced downstairs, shoulder aching from old wounds. A figure appeared ahead, not Voryn, but Lyra, Kaelith's aide. "Carver!" she shouted, eyes frantic. "The chieftain's under attack." Ethan halted, pistol raised. "Where?" Lyra pointed east. "With Ramirez." "Hurry!" But her eyes flicked to his pocket, where the data device sat. He tightened his grip. "You lead." Lyra nodded, running ahead, but her pace was too quick, like she was luring him into a trap. They reached the east corridor, but no Kaelith, no Ramirez. Only two black-clad Voryn, rifles ready. "Down!" Ethan yelled, shoving Lyra aside, firing once, dropping the nearest. The second returned fire, an energy bolt grazing his ear, singeing hair. Ethan dove behind a pillar, shooting back, hitting the Voryn's chest. Lyra stood, eyes blazing. "You're ruining everything!" she snarled, drawing an energy dagger. Ethan dodged its glowing blade, grabbing her wrist, twisting hard. She yelped, the dagger falling. "Who's pulling your strings?" he asked, voice icy. Lyra smirked. "You think it?" Smoke and fire choked the corridors, red emergency lights pulsing like the steel ring's frantic heartbeat. Ethan Carver sprinted through side passages, each step tearing at his body. Blood seeped from the wound on his arm, soaking his gray-silver uniform, but he didn't stop. Zorth and his Voryn squad pursued, energy rifles spitting deadly beams that grazed steel walls, leaving charred scars. Ethan ducked into a maintenance tunnel, heart pounding, hand clutching the device holding proof, data on Zorth and Carter. He hit the comm, secure channel. "Boss, Carter's in on it. I've got evidence, but Zorth is hunting me." Ramirez's voice crackled, strained. "Carter? You sure? Go to ground, I'll find Kaelith." Ethan scanned the tunnel, pipes hissing with heat, no exit. He ran on, dodging an energy bolt that singed his shoulder, leaving a burning sting. "Ramirez, Kaelith's position?" he asked, urgent. Silence. The comm hissed, then died. Ethan gritted his teeth, weaving through a tight corner. The maintenance tunnel was cramped, reeking of machine oil. Ethan paused, checking the device, data intact. Voryn footsteps echoed closer, heavy, organized. He slipped into shadows, eyeing exits, a staircase to the technical level, risky but near Kaelith. He tried the comm. "Ramirez, report." No answer. Dread surged. He bolted up the stairs, blood dripping onto steel, each step a vow, keep Kaelith alive. The rendezvous was the archive, station's west corner. But when Ethan arrived, the archive was silent, only Ramirez lying unconscious in a pool of blood, rifle out of reach. Ethan knelt, checking his pulse, alive, but faint. A figure stepped from the dark, not Zorth, but Lyra, Kaelith's aide, eyes burning with rage. "Too curious, human," she said, drawing an energy dagger, its blade glowing. Ethan leaped back, dodging the dagger's swipe, which left a searing mark on his shoulder. "Why, Lyra?" he growled, blocking her second strike. She attacked fast, but Ethan was faster, his combat training overwhelming her. "Because Kaelith is weak," Lyra hissed, slashing hard. "This treaty will destroy the Voryn." Ethan caught her wrist, twisting sharply, the dagger clattering away. He pinned her, snapping energy cuffs on her wrists. "Who's calling the shots?" he demanded, voice cold. Lyra smirked. "You think it's just Zoreth and Carter?" Ethan tightened the cuffs, but the comm buzzed, Kaelith's voice urgent. "Ethan, I'm trapped in the technical bay. Zoreth is coming! Hurry!" He glanced at Lyra, her eyes gleaming triumphantly. A trap? But Kaelith's voice was real. He left Lyra, sprinting off, blood streaming, driven to save the woman who'd become everything. The technical bay was a maze of pipes and machinery, red lights flickering. Ethan ran, pistol ready, scanning corners. Voryn's footsteps echoed behind, but he didn't look back. "Kaelith!" he called, voice hoarse. A metallic screech led him to a jammed door, Kaelith behind it, her torn silk gown catching the light, eyes glinting with fear but resolve. "Ethan!" she shouted, pounding the door. He rammed it with his shoulder, metal groaning, opening just enough. He pulled her out, checking. "You okay?" She nodded, her hand on his arm, cold but firm. "Zoreth knows I'm here," she whispered. Ethan swept the corridor. "What does he want?" She shook her head. "Not just my death. He wants war." An energy rifle's blast rang out, a beam grazing a pillar. Ethan shoved Kaelith behind him, returning fire, dropping a black-clad Voryn. "Run!" he yelled, pulling her through the maze. They weaved past pipes, smoke thickening. Ethan coughed, his wound throbbing, but didn't slow. The comm crackled, Ramirez's voice weak. "Carver, I'm awake. Zoreth is blocking the main exit. Find a side route." Ethan pictured the station's layout, an exit through the reactor, dangerous but close. "Reactor," he said, voice firm. Kaelith nodded, matching his pace, breath ragged. A Voryn appeared, rifle aimed. Ethan fired first, hitting its chest, but the figure didn't fall, armor absorbing the shot. Ethan charged, landing a heavy punch, dropping it. "New armor," he muttered, pulling Kaelith onward. The reactor glowed, heat scorching. Ethan checked the side door, electronic lock. He hacked it, fingers flying over the panel. Kaelith stood behind, scanning the corridor. "They're close," she whispered. Ethan nodded, the door clicking open. They rushed in, but a figure blocked the way, not Zoreth, but a station worker, face familiar from the banquet. "Carver," he said, voice cold, drawing a pistol. "Hand over the device." Ethan stepped in front of Kaelith, pistol raised. "Who are you?" The man smirked. "Carter doesn't work alone." Ethan fired, but the man rolled, returning a shot that hit Ethan's leg. He collapsed, pain searing, but pulled Kaelith down, firing back, hitting the man's shoulder. The attacker fled, leaving a trail of blood. Ethan struggled up, leg trembling, blood pooling. Kaelith supported him, eyes wide with worry. "You can't go on," she said. "Have to," he replied, voice hard. "For you." She gripped his hand, their breaths mingling. "Together," she whispered. Ethan nodded, leading her through the reactor. Voryn's footsteps closed in. He checked the device, data secure. "Ramirez, exit status?" he asked via comm. Ramirez's voice rasped. "East door, I'm holding it." "Hurry!" Ethan met Kaelith's gaze, her eyes blazing. "Ready?" She nodded. They charged forward, blood and fire at their backs, their oath the light guiding them. The technical bay of the steel ring was a labyrinth of pipes and machinery, red emergency lights pulsing like the station's frantic heartbeat. Smoke lingered, the air thick with machine oil. Ethan Carver sprinted through a corridor, plasma pistol gripped tight, blood from wounds on his shoulder and leg soaking his gray-silver uniform. He found Kaelith behind a jammed door, her face pale but her fathomless eyes burning with resolve. "Ethan!" she called, pounding the metal, voice urgent. He slammed his shoulder against it, steel screeching, each hit tearing at his body, but he didn't care. The door gave just enough. He pulled her out, checking quickly. "You okay?" She nodded, her hand on his shoulder, cold but firm. "You're badly hurt," she said, voice trembling, eyes glinting with worry. "Doesn't matter," Ethan replied, pulling her into a shadowed corner behind the reactor as Zoratha's heavy footsteps and his Voryn team echoed closer. They hid behind the reactor, its heat scorching, their breaths mingling in the cramped space. Ethan handed Kaelith the data device, whispering, "Carter's a traitor. She approved Xiron 9. Kaelith scanned it, eyes flashing with pain. "I trusted her," she said, gripping his hand, her cold fingers trembling. "But I trust you, Ethan." In that desperate moment, she pulled him close, her lips meeting his in a fierce kiss, a flame that burned away all protocol. Her breath was fire, his heart ready to burst. "If we survive," she whispered, eyes blazing, "I want to live true to my heart." Ethan nodded, squeezing her hand. "We'll survive," he said, voice firm. They formed a final plan: trigger the station's emergency signal to send evidence of Zorath and Carter's betrayal to the Galactic Alliance Council. But the comms hub was upstairs, and Zorath blocked the way. Ethan scanned the corridor, pistol ready. Voryn footsteps grew louder, Zoratha's cold voice cutting through. "Find the chieftain. The human dies!" Kaelith gripped Ethan's hand, voice low. "He wants me dead to kill the treaty." Ethan nodded, checking the device, data secure. "We need a side route," he said, mapping the station in his mind. A ventilation shaft led to the comms level, risky but viable. "Can you climb?" he asked. Kaelith nodded, tearing her silk gown further, revealing scratched legs. "I'm not weak," she said, eyes flashing resolve. Ethan gave a faint smile. "Never thought you were." They crawled into the vent, narrow and sweltering, reactor heat blasting their faces. Ethan led, Kaelith close behind, her breaths ragged but steady. Voryn voices echoed below, energy rifles firing test shots, beams grazing the ducts. Ethan paused, signaling silence. A Voryn shouted, "They're in the vents!" Ethan gritted his teeth, urging speed. The duct shook, metal screaming as Voryn fired. "Faster!" he whispered, pulling Kaelith through a tight section. She climbed swiftly, torn gown scraping steel, but didn't complain. They spilled onto the comms level, collapsing on the floor, gasping. Ethan checked the door, electronic lock. He hacked the panel, sparks flying. "Watch the door," he said, handing her a spare pistol. Kaelith nodded, gripping it, hands trembling but eyes sharp. The door opened, and they rushed into the comms hub. Screens displayed station maps, but no staff. "Too quiet," Ethan whispered, plugging the device into the system. Data began uploading to the emergency channel. Kaelith stood beside him, scanning the door. "They're close," she said, hearing footsteps. Ethan nodded, fingers flying. 30 seconds. But a figure appeared at the door, not Zorath, but Lyra, Kaelith's aide, eyes blazing with rage. "You can't send it!" she screamed, drawing an energy dagger. Ethan leaped to shield Kaelith, but Lyra was fast, her blade grazing his arm, blood spraying. "Why, Lyra?" Kaelith growled, raising her pistol. Lyra sneered. "Because Voryn need war, not your weak peace." Ethan tackled Lyra, pinning her, locking her wrists. "Who's behind it?" he demanded, voice icy. Lyra spat. "You'll never know!" Kaelith fired, grazing Lyra's shoulder, making her yelp. "Speak!" Kaelith commanded, voice sharp. Lyra glared, silent. Ethan turned to the screen. Upload complete. He triggered the emergency signal, sending the evidence. "Done," he said, pulling Kaelith toward the door. But an explosion rocked the room, smoke pouring in. Zora stepped through, silver skin gleaming, energy rifle raised. "Chieftain, you betray our people!" he roared. Ethan shielded Kaelith, pistol aimed. "He wants war," he whispered. Kaelith nodded, gripping her weapon. Zorath fired, Ethan shoving Kaelith down, rolling behind a console. He returned fire, hitting Zorath's shoulder, but his armor deflected it. "You can't win," Zorath said, advancing. Ethan scanned the room, spotting a compressed gas canister near the door. "Keep him busy!" he shouted, sprinting out, shooting the canister. The explosion threw Zorath back, smoke thickening. Ethan grabbed Kaelith, but another Voryn appeared, not Zorath's team, wearing council robes. "Chieftain, stop!" he shouted, aiming at Ethan. Kaelith raised her hand. "He saved me!" The Voryn hesitated, then lowered his weapon. "The council got the signal," he said. "Zorath's detained." Ethan exhaled, but his eyes still scanned. "Where's Carter?" The Voryn shook his head. "Gone." Ethan looked at Kaelith, her face streaked with blood and smoke, but her eyes blazed. "We did it," she whispered, touching his hand. He nodded, heart pounding. Together. They left the room, the council Voryn leading, but Ethan knew Carter was still out there, and the darkness hadn't lifted. Their alliance, forged in fire, was the only light against the conspiracy. The steel ring's smoke-filled corridors hissed with metal and the acrid stench of burning. Ethan, Carver, and Kaelith moved silently, weaving past Voryn patrols, Ethan's plasma pistol gripped tight, blood from old wounds staining his uniform. Kaelith, her silk gown torn, kept pace, her fathomless eyes glinting with resolve. They headed for the comms hub, where an emergency signal could send evidence of Zorath and Carter's betrayal to the Galactic Alliance Council. Ethan scanned the corridor, catching distant footsteps. "Almost there," he whispered, signaling Kaelith to hide behind a pillar. She nodded, clutching the pistol he'd given her, unfamiliar but determined. "If they block us," she said, voice low, "I fight with you." Ethan gave a faint smile. "I know." The comms hub door loomed, its electronic lock blinking. Ethan hacked the panel, sparks flashing. Kaelith stood behind, scanning the corridor, breath quick. The door hissed open, but inside wasn't the quiet they'd hoped for. Zora stood there, silver skin gleaming, energy rifle raised, flanked by Ambassador Carter and a squad of 5 mercenaries, black-clad, eyes cold. "You're a fool, Carver," Carter said, voice icy. "This treaty weakens humanity. War is how we dominate." Ethan tightened his grip, shielding Kaelith. "You're wrong. Peace is strength." Zora sneered, his Voryn voice deep. "Humans don't deserve peace." Kaelith stepped forward, eyes blazing. "And you, Zorath, betray our people for ambition!" Battle erupted. Ethan moved like a storm, firing twice, dropping a mercenary, diving behind a console as energy bolts grazed past. Kaelith, no warrior, darted to a secondary panel, fingers flying, disabling Zorath's automated defenses. "They're down!" she shouted, dodging a shot. Ethan fired again, hitting a mercenary's leg, but Zorath was fast, his armor deflecting rounds. "You won't escape!" Zorath roared, firing relentlessly. Ethan pulled Kaelith behind a pillar, smoke thickening. "Keep them pinned!" he whispered, scanning the room. A mercenary flanked them, energy dagger glowing. Ethan charged, landing a heavy punch, dropping him, but the blade grazed his side, blood spilling. Kaelith fired her pistol, hitting a mercenary's shoulder, shouting, "Ethan, left!" He spun, downing the attacker, but Carter moved, her energy pistol aimed. "You've failed, Carver," she said, firing. The bolt struck Ethan's chest, knocking him down, blood pooling. Pain burned like fire, his vision blurring. Kaelith screamed, rushing to shield him, pistol raised. "Don't touch him!" she roared, eyes blazing, firing at Carter, grazing her shoulder. Carter recoiled, but Zorath advanced, aiming at Kaelith. Ethan, despite the pain, gritted his teeth, grabbing his pistol, shooting Zorath's hand. The rifle fell, Zorath howling. Footsteps thundered, not Voryn. Ramirez, recovered, burst in with a loyal human security team, rifles trained on Carter and Zorath. "Drop your weapons!" Ramirez shouted. Carter gave a cold smile, raising her hands. Zorath lunged at Kaelith, but Ethan, blood-soaked, staggered up, landing a brutal punch to Zorath's face. He collapsed, unconscious. Ramirez's team cuffed both. Kaelith knelt beside Ethan, tears glistening on her silver skin. "Don't leave me," she pleaded, pressing his wound. Ethan smiled weakly, voice hoarse. "Not yet. Kaelith." Ramirez ordered the team to secure the room. Signal sent? He asked. Kaelith nodded, pointing to the main screen. Data transmitted. The Council knows everything, she said, voice trembling. Ethan coughed, blood on his lips, but his eyes stayed sharp. What did Carter say about allies? He asked Ramirez. Ramirez frowned. She's silent. But we caught a strange signal from the armory before we arrived. Ethan gripped Kaelith's hand, dread rising. Check the armory, he said, voice faint. Ramirez nodded, sending a team. Kaelith tore her gown, binding Ethan's wound, her hands trembling but steady. You almost died, she whispered, eyes glistening. Worth it, he replied, touching her hand. She leaned down, kissing his forehead, her breath warm. I need you alive, she said. Ethan nodded, heart pounding despite his fading strength. A human guard rushed in, pale. Captain, armory breach! Detonator missing! Ethan stiffened, meeting Kaelith's gaze. Who? She shook her head, eyes flashing fear. Lyra. She escaped when Zorath was taken. Ethan tried to stand, but pain dropped him. Kaelith held him, voice firm. You can't go! He shook his head. Have to stop her. A detonator could end the station. Ramirez turned. I'll lead the search. Stay, Carver. Ethan gritted his teeth, nodding. Hurry, boss. Ramirez charged out, team in tow. Kaelith sat beside Ethan, hand never leaving his. I was wrong to trust Lyra, she said, voice pained. Ethan squeezed her hand. We'll fix it together. The comms hub fell quiet, only machinery humming. Ethan checked the data device, ensuring the Council received the signal. They'll act, he said, voice weak. Kaelith nodded, but her eyes locked on him. You fought for me, knowing you could die, she whispered. Why? Ethan met her gaze, sincere. Because you're the future. And I can't lose you. She leaned down, lips brushing his, soft but profound. Nor I you, she said. The calm crackled. Carver, Lyra's at the reactor. She's got a detonator. Ramirez's voice, urgent. Ethan looked at Kaelith, both knowing the fight wasn't over. He stood, blood seeping through bandages, pistol gripped. We go together, he said. Kaelith nodded, eyes blazing. They charged out, their alliance forged in blood and fire, ready to face the final darkness. A week after the battle, the steel ring returned to calm, though scars marred its steel walls and the hearts within. The treaty signing unfolded in the main hall, simple but profound. Floating crystal orbs cast soft light on delegates from the Galactic Alliance and humanity, now seated together, suspicion replaced by tentative unity. Ethan Carver, still bandaged at shoulder and chest, stood in a corner, plasma pistol concealed, eyes scanning the crowd out of habit. But today, he sought Kaelith, not threats. She stood at the hall's center, galactic silk gown shimmering, her melodic voice speaking of peace, trust, and the future. We stand here not for victory, but for choice, she said, her fathomless eyes sweeping the delegates, lingering on Ethan like a silent vow. His heart raced, not from danger but from her. The ceremony ended, delegates applauding, but Ethan slipped into a quiet corridor, avoiding the light. Kaelith found him, her steps light, gown rustling. You're no longer my guard, Ethan Carver, she said, voice gentle but deep. He stepped closer, smiling faintly, protocol forgotten. Does that change anything? She smiled, cool fingers brushing his hand, silver skin patterns glinting. In Voryn culture, a blood oath is eternal, she whispered. But my heart, it's yours. Ethan pulled her close, protocol dissolving, her breath mingling with his. Then we'll face the consequences together, he replied, voice firm. She leaned into him, eyes on the crystal ceiling where stars shone through. The Council's displeased, she said. They want me to stay on the station. But I choose to go with you. Ethan squeezed her hand. They'll have to deal with it. 6 months later, on the human colony Alara 7, Ethan and Kaelith stood on a grassy hill, wind carrying the scent of earth and sea salt. The night sky blazed with stars, a reminder of the steel ring. Kaelith wore a cloak blending Voryn and human styles, silver trim embroidered with stellar patterns, symbolizing her new role, a bridge between worlds. Ethan, now her security advisor, stood beside her, his worn gray jacket familiar, but his eyes brighter than ever. "Do you ever think about that first day on the steel ring?" she asked, voice soft, leaning into his shoulder. "Every day," he replied, smiling. "I tackled you. Not exactly protocol." She laughed, clear as the breeze. "But it saved me. And changed me." They fell silent, stargazing, but Ethan sensed a quiet tension in Kaelith. "Something wrong?" he asked, turning to her. She sighed, touching the silver necklace, a council gift, but also a tracking device. "The council accepted the treaty, but they don't trust me," she said. "They think I'm too close to humanity. And there are rumors of conservative Voryn rejecting peace." Ethan frowned, hand brushing the pistol under his jacket. "Lyra?" She shook her head. "No one's seen her since the station. But someone's sending encrypted signals from the colonies." Ethan gripped her hand. "We'll find them. Together." A light flashed at the hill's base, not a star, but a signal beacon. Ethan pulled Kaelith down, scanning the valley. A figure moved, black-clad, operating a comm device. "Stay here," he whispered, drawing his pistol. Kaelith grabbed his hand, eyes sharp. "No. I'm with you." He hesitated, then nodded. They crept down the hill, grass masking their steps, wind covering the sound. The figure paused, activating the device, a human voice crackling. "Target confirmed. Chieftain and guard on the hill." Ethan froze, recognizing it, a mercenary who'd worked for Carter. Kaelith squeezed his hand, whispering, "They haven't given up." Ethan signaled, and they circled, approaching from behind. He leaped, locking the man's arm, pistol to his head. "Who's giving orders?" he growled. The man smirked. "You think Carter was everything?" "Somewhat wore more than she did." Kaelith stepped forward, voice icy. "Speak, or you won't see dawn." He stayed silent, but his device blinked, transmitting. Ethan smashed it, cuffing him. "Where's Ramirez?" he asked Kaelith. "Comms outpost 5 miles out," she replied. Ethan nodded, yanking the man up. "We've got a guest to interrogate." They returned to the hill, cold wind sweeping through, but Kaelith didn't shiver. "Peace was never easy," she said, eyes distant. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, his warmth countering the night's chill. "But worth fighting for," he replied. She leaned into him, fingers lacing with his. "You're my star, Ethan," she whispered. He kissed her forehead, voice low. "And you're my galaxy." Under Alara 7's sky, they stood, two pioneers who'd rewritten fate with blood, trust, and love. Encrypted signals, mercenaries, and the shadow of war still loomed, but Ethan and Kaelith were unafraid. They'd face betrayal, fire, and death, each trial forging their alliance stronger. "Ready for the next step?" he asked, eyes glinting. Kaelith smiled, stars reflected in her gaze. "With you always." They descended the hill, hand in hand, ready for whatever lay ahead, a new star guiding their way.